Hi, as promised, a little bit of extension work around screen printing, which is basically going to show you how I'm using the sticky back plasticky stuff, the sticky vinyl, this stuff, and also how you're going to register your screen print. That means that if you do a number of different colours and you want them to be very separate from the design, you don't want to merge them all together, then you've got to do three. So I'm going to do three. We've got to do three separate printings, and then you've got to line them up so that they all print in the right place for the design, and that's called getting it into register, and those things are called colour separations. Now, thank you, Tony, for the suggestion. What I've got here is I've put my screen, my large screen, onto a drawing board, which is just basically a piece of MDF board. And I found an old hinge here so that I can lift it up like that, put it back down onto my page, and it's going to be in the same place every time. Now, if you haven't got a hinge, you could do the job equally well by putting it on a board still, but masking out each side with masking tape on each corner, so that when you put your screen down every time you print, you're going to be printing it in the same place each time. So if we look at a visual of that, this is your board, this is your, each corner is going to look like this, so that you've got an area, you know exactly where you've got to put your frame every time. And you can do that on a table as well, and then just take the masking tape off, which is maybe less drastic than starting putting hinges on things. So here we've got my sketchbook, and I've already made my sketchbook pages up for this piece in preparation. So I started my design with a tracing, and then I refined my drawing a little bit further. So this is going to be called screen printing with colour separations, and I'll put a separate a JPEG of that page onto the Facebook page. And here's another one. This is a further refining of the image, and I thought that if that I was going to do the shades in white and the other bit in black, but I've adapted the design to look a little bit less heavy, I thought. And I've decided on a few colours. I may change those colours before I print, or do two different versions of it. So you can see that in order to print those colours, I'm going to have to separate these out. So there's a brown bit there, brown bits there. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to cut them out. And I might have, one option, if it wasn't too tricky, would be to cut them out the same, to cut them all in one piece, and then to mask out the bits that you're not printing at the time. But I think that's going to be actually more tricky with this design than doing it in three separate jobs. So I've marked out on three pieces of sticky back plastic a square that's the same size as the design, and I've got my design here, and my square marries up with that. I've done a proper design. I've put graphite on the back, and I've got a hard pencil. I'm going to trace off first the brown, then on another sheet I'm going to do the green, and then on another sheet still I'm just going to finish off with those little red bits. So I should end up with three separate colour printings, and the trick then will be to get them into register, what we call register, so that when I print the brown, it's going to line up with the green in the right place and line up with the red in the right place. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. Then I'm going to post the video, and then I'll show you how it turned out in the end. But I think you may want to crack on with this, and it's going to take me a little while. So, right, well, I can already tell you that I've already adapted my design because my hinge was nowhere near accurate enough. So I've gone with the masking tape on each corner, as you can see, to position my screen down. I've marked out an area that I'm going to print on. I'm going to print on paper that's this size, I've cut a number of sheets of paper in different sorts in this size. That's going to be the position of my design. Here's my sticky back plastic. I'm going to transfer each colour of my design onto separate sheets that are all cut and marked out to the same measurements. So I've got 6 centimetre border around each side, and my design fits into the middle of each. So this is going to be the red, this is going to be the brown, this is going to be the green plates. So I've marked out my paper, I've marked out the area on the board that corresponds to where I'm going to put the paper, and I've marked up a piece of paper to show where the design is as well. Now I've also, if you can just see, onto the front of my screen I've just tacked masking tape that corresponds to the size of my paper. Now the clever bit, I hope, and I don't know yet because we will see, the clever bit will be that I will put my place my plastic separation in a right way up, obviously, on the back of the screen using this masking tape as a guide, and then I take it off afterwards. But I'll probably mark these areas out so that I know exactly what the measurements are before I take it off, obviously. So basically that's the way I'm going to try and play it. So I've got my my design for, say, the green here, put that on, print it first, then I take all of it off, wash it down, and then do the other separations. That's the theory. I'm going to leave you with that and hope that that works, and I'll let you know once I've done it. Right, here we are, and I'm ready to cut my separations, my colour separations, onto my separately marked up sheets of vinyl. So I've put my design onto here first, and I'm going to draw it out onto the sticky back plastic, and using this as a guide, so just for the green colour. So here we go, with a very, very sharp blade I've begun to cut that design out very carefully. Now here's a thing, each of those little pieces here I am keeping very, very safely, because I'm going to match them up onto a sheet of acetate when I've done it all, each plate, and that will make an absolutely super cyanotype. One thing to remember, I'm just cutting this bit here, you see, and I've got a little bit in the middle, haven't I? Don't forget, if you've got that occurring in any of your design, you're going to have to make a decision. Either it's going to be too fiddly and you're going to dispense with the bits in the middle, or you're going to try and use them and keep these pieces so that they also can be placed on the underside of your screen when you place your separation on this. Do you remember I said keep it simple? But what I've done, I've just completely ignored my own advice. So I've now cut out my green. I've got the piece of plastic ready to stick onto sorry, the back of my screen for the first printing. So, and I'm immediately going to put all those little tiny bits onto acetate so that I'm building that up at the same time. So I've got the acetate here, and literally I've got the little tiny pieces there, and I'm just marrying those up on the top of the acetate so that I get a vinyl version of my design on a sheet of acetate. Then when you expose that on the cyanotype paper, you'll get a lovely cyanotype. So here's my green part of the design on the vinyl, ready to adhere, put onto the back of the screen, and I've put all the little tiny bits that I've cut out into the right position onto an acetate, so that I'm going to build up an image of this on acetate that I can then put onto a sheet of cyanotype paper and make a cyanotype of it. So I always love it when you can make more than one thing. I've also got all these little tiny bits and pieces which I may just spray mount onto another piece just for the sketchbook. I have these tiny pieces which I've kept for the screen, but to be quite honest, I think I'm going to abandon even attempting to use them because I think they're going to be too small. In position with the reverse side, the masking tape on the reverse to guide me, I'm applying my separation very, very carefully to the underside of the screen, to the back of the screen. Make sure when you put it down you have as few wrinkles and bubbles as you can possibly get, because those are going to be problem areas when you start to print. Okay, so I've finished that and there it is on the back of my screen. And now I can remove this masking tape from the front of the screen and just make sure that I put that back the next time I put another plate on there, another separation on there, to have it lined up for the paper. So just another byproduct here. You may remember, some of you in the sessions, I mentioned that, you know, when you do this, you've got your backing sheet, and if you're not going to reuse this, or even if you are, you can get something else to put it down on. You can use this as a stencil, either to paint through if you want to, if that works, or even just as a Banksy, you know, as a spray stencil that you can build up a pattern through that. And as you can see, I've masked off a reasonable proportion of my screen with, well, that's just old bits of newsprint actually, but you could use just old newspapers. Just something that's going to protect your baseboard and protect the other areas, the areas around your paper, just in case you get a bit slapdash with the screen printing ink, as I'm inclined to do. And there we have the print ready to print on your baseboard. You know, underneath there you've got your, you know that you've got to place your screen between those marked pieces of masking tape on the board, and then if you lift up, that is, you've also got marked out where you're going to put your paper. And I've cut a whole load of different pieces of paper to size so that I know exactly where to put those to print. So just to finish off the video, you can see here that I've got my red plate all ready to cut out, all drawn onto my second sheet of vinyl. I've got the brown plate all ready to cut out on another piece of vinyl, all marked up and in register, so that these are basically going to be my colour separations. Now, as I'm doing that, so that I don't lose any and get confused, I'm putting them straight onto my acetate with my design underneath as a guide.